Intro music. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Bad Bench. My name is John, aka Big Bad Biologist, and we're back at it again with yet another Mac Plus. Another Mac Plus. I have a problem. I told you this a couple weeks ago. I have a problem for Mac Pluses. So I figure we'll work through that one today, and we'll do some other stuff. We're gonna we're gonna do my internal SCSI mod to this thing most likely. But we'll see what happens. Stuff can go bad. The last time I tried to do this, basically I wound up with 3 bad Mac Plus logic boards, so hopefully today I'll go better. So let's say hi to folks in the chat while we take a look at what's on the Big Bad Bench. We got Retro Mac UK, what's up Martin, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech, Alan Gracia, Epictronics, Jack 68K, Sloopy Malibu, Trina's Techno Babble, Vic the Vicar, Dave Diamond, Gut Bomb, III, DIY, Bacchus. What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for stopping by. So, I'm going to tell you straight up that this little board that I designed to do internal SCSI on a Mac Plus is basically going to be useless in I don't know however long, because Joe from Joe's Computer Museum, you know all the cool stuff he does, he designed something that's way easier to install than this, but I still want to go through the process. The other thing I was thinking about is people have previously asked me if it's possible, I think it might have been Vic the Vicar that asked this question, is it possible to replace the SCSI chip on a Mac Plus with a faster one? And so this morning I pulled the SCSI chip off of a Macintosh SE. The logic board in that one was kind of buggy. And so we're going to try just swapping the SCSI chip real quick and see if it works. So real quick, I did a benchmark here, and obviously you're not going to see this really well, but both the read and write megabytes per second for this board, and this could have something to do with my terrible setup for my drive image, but it was about 0.22 and 0.23 megabytes per second as far as the write and read speeds. As far as the Snooper benchmark went. So we're going to shut this down, and we're going to do this live on stream. I wanted to do this live on stream in case this thing catches fire. So I looked at the pinouts of this one. So the SCSI chip on the Mac Plus is an NCR 5380, and the SCSI chip on the Macintosh SE is an AMD AM5380 PC. And so theoretically, from what I was reading online, the SE should have a maximum throughput of about 5 megabytes per second, and the Plus should have a maximum throughput of about 2 megabytes per second, I think. Yeah, my little precision sockets bring these little inserts with them sometimes. Let's get this thing back into its hole. Which one were you? Right there. Get back in there. It's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of the precision sockets. I think KMac Vintage is here. What's going on, Will? Okay. Oh, jerk. Oh, jerk. Yeah, I agree with you, Bacchus, but it's a fun experiment. I like to do experiments. And Eric's Edge is here. What's going on, Eric? Look what I just did to this SCSI chip. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I mangled this thing. Oh, we're off to an awesome start today. darn precision sockets. I hate precision sockets. Let's try this again. How to W drive a 2GS. Nice. One pin is just a little out of line. It's giving me attitude. No, I refuse to do it on a flat surface. So one of the reasons I like kind of doing it like this is you can kind of see both sides of the chip easier. There it goes. Okay, it's in there. Okay. Oh yeah, and here's Big Bad Biologist, big jank tip of the day. With the Plus, it's got these funky, and this would be the same for the 512 and the 128. It has these funky power cables. And so what you can do is just cut off little nails and put them between two power cables, and then you can have a power cable extension. If you have like a SE or any of the what are the other ones? The classics, the classic 2s, you can just use ATX cables for that. But yeah. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. It bonged, so it didn't catch fire. The chip is not excessively warm. Who else showed up? Rudy. How's it going, Rudy? So right now we're just waiting. Oh, and we're booting. So there you go. You can at least take the SCSI chip out of an SE and put it in there. Fun. So that kind of opens up the door. I want to maybe try some other ones. Let's do our benchmark, even though I don't think it's going to change much. Like Bacchus said, it has a lot to do with the logic board. Also, I think my drive image is not configured properly. It's always a pain in the butt to get a Mac Plus drive image working right. And so once I got one, I was like, screw it. I don't want to touch it anymore. This is my Plus image. Yeah, so this SCSI chip I just put in there is from a Macintosh SE. This is the original out of that Plus. So I just took that out. Put that one in there. SCSI shenanigans. Okay. All right, so why did I buy this SE? So while that's going, we'll do some other stuff. Why did I buy another SE? Well, or not another SE, another Plus. I have a weakness for the Pluses that used to be whatever. So the serial number on this one is F5388DEM0001W. So I think this one was originally a Mac 512. We'll have to run the serial number. I haven't done that. So I have a weakness for these. So when they show up, I like to get them. It also came with this keyboard, which I didn't have any of the narrow keyboards that came with the 128 or the 512. So I'm happy to get one of these keyboards. So yeah, so the other thing Listen to this. Did you hear anything there? The ping sound, yeah. And so that's one of the reasons I tell people when you get one of these, do not power it on. So most likely, I have a feeling that it's the little piece of metal that comes off of the floppy drive that's glued onto the top of the floppy drive. The other possibility is that sometimes these prongs from the battery get broken off, and that bottom one is broken off, and there's a chance that that's floating around inside there. So we'll see. So never power these on, always pop them open, and you know, take a look inside before you do anything with them. All right, so this one's almost done. It looks to be identical. Yeah, 0.23 megabytes per second read. And let's just do the right one just for poops and giggles. All right, so while that's going, let's start cracking this thing open. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay, get rid of that thing. Find our T15. Oh, geez. Vic the Victor is suggesting switching to SE ROMs. Yeah, I should get a Rominator for one of these. I haven't done that yet. It would be fun to sort of play around with. Yeah, the big bed bench could use to be a little bit bigger. I have too many things happening. I'm still impressed that I was able to get that air filter on last weekend. Thank you all that hung out and watched that. That was a lot of fun to do something kind of different for me. I know an air purifier is not the same thing as a vintage Macintosh, but I had fun with that. Oh, Frodo Jedi and Sloopy are working on a new Rominator. Oh, there's some sneaky info that's waiting to get released. What's that? Oh my. Oops. Oh yeah, this is definitely an older one. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. Okay, so we have, I think, water dripped inside this thing. That is a really weird location to have water stains on top of the floppy drive like that. But look at this. That's a relatively clean CRT. Let's pop this thing out. Lots of good crunchy noises. Oh my. Oh my. Well, that's not good. Oh, jeez. There were hints of rust on the back that we saw. I met up with Gutbaum yesterday, gave him the Commodore 64. Huh. I don't like it when rust happens on my logic boards. Look at that. It's like salt water, I hope. Yeah, I think this will clean up okay. Still annoying as crap. That is weird. Okay. What should we do here? I'm gonna set the logic board aside for a moment. Yeah, Rudy, I restored a Commodore 64 and I gave it away on the channel, and Gut Bomb was the winner. Let's take a look at the... Oh, okay. So, remember my two possible things for the little metal noise popping around? Well, it was that battery terminal connector. That's what was bopping around in there. So, yeah. Don't power these things on straight away. All right, let's look at our thing here. Yeah, 0.23 megabytes per second. So we haven't improved our speed at all by that swap. But theoretically, maybe someday we'll figure out something to improve that. So what should we do here? So, gonna pop that away. So that logic board is not, I'm not gonna power that up today. I don't want to do anything to it until I have the chance to give it an ultrasonic bath. So, what should we do? What should we do? Let's look at this analog board. So the bar is actually in really nice shape. Normally these are kind of corroded. Okay. So the thing we have on this analog board is definitely bad solder joints. Good thing we didn't. Yeah, another reason you don't want to power it up. I mean, if you don't have good solder joints, it's not going to cause any issues, but if you have little chunks of metal and rust all inside your system, then yeah, it's going to cause some issues. Okay, let's put a little isopropanol on this one, let it soften up a second. Let's see if I can show you this thing under the microscope. This is gonna be a little janky, but I think it'll work. Switch to the microscope view. Oh geez. Oh geez. Things are happening. Where are we? Oh, there we are. And we're too far away. There we go. So, these little rings that you can see around here, those are what we're talking about when we say we have cracked solder joints. And that is what happens on basically every classic or every plus 128, 512. It's very common wherever the connectors are on these things. So let's hit those real quick. No signs of arcing yet, so that's a good thing. Let's zoom in a little. Set that aside. It's normally these four up here that are the ones that you really have to worry about for arcing. I've seen some of those look really bad. Garth Beagle's here. What's going on, Garth? You missed our first experiment. We took the SCSI chip out of an SE and put it into the Plus logic board, and it worked. It wasn't any faster in the current setup that I have here, but it was a thing, and it worked. Experiments. Alright, so then we also typically have to worry about these, but these all look beautiful. This is the flyback transformer. Oh, there is, yep, there's one right here. Yeah, that one's gonna need to get done. Okay. Looking at these, where's our other connector at? Yeah. Our other connector's here. Yep, that one needs to get done. Yeah, they all need to get done. All right, so let's try the Moo gun on this. I normally don't use the Moo gun for these, but I had it hot, so let's use it. Go, go, Moo gun. And again, like I did a couple weeks ago, I'm doing every other. Okay, let's try another soldering iron. All right. Man, I really can't believe how wet this thing got. This is wild. Look at all that crustiness. It's like it was in a shed and just like dripping down. Okay, another thing I'm going to do while I'm waiting, try to find a couple of the plastic rivets. I had a couple here the other day. Don't want a repeat of a couple weeks ago when I zapped myself really well. I don't think my heart could take it twice in a month span. Like I said then, never power these on without your side. Look at how clean this is. I've never seen one of these this clean. And yet, massive water damage. Okay. Alright, that's all those. Now we gotta go back to the Moo gun. Yeah, this is my old school solder. So I bought some stuff recently that is my normal 0.3 millimeter, but I tried this stuff. This is white hot garbage. So if you ever see this crap on eBay, do not buy it. I think it's Kuchu. Yeah. Don't buy this. This is old school Kester solder. Spool is probably 30 years old. It's at least a millimeter. 040, whatever 040 is. I803866SX. Did I forget to say hi to you earlier? Hello, if I have not. Hello again, if I did. And yes, buy Kester or just don't buy anything. I bought some pretty good crap before, but this stuff was the worst I've ever bought. Okay, move gun is off. I think we're good so far. We'll definitely power up this analog board today. So I guess what we should do though, once we test our analog board, is maybe we'll convert. I don't know. What do people think? So this is the original internal SCSI mod that I did when I was testing out my theory for doing this. And it's ugly as sin, and it was more of just a proof of concept. But I think what I want to do is take it apart, and we'll use this board to do the internal, real internal mod. And yes, it's beautiful. It's special in its own kind of way. So yeah, I think maybe we'll get rid of this one. We've documented that it was a thing. I know, Dave, I feel the same way. I hate taking stuff apart that I did, but it's time. This thing lived its life. It did a lot of testing. It did nice work, but I think it's time to do a more professional mod on it. It looks like the back of my AV receiver. That's awesome. Okay, so that should be all of our bad solder joints. Yeah, I'll post it on eBay. Rare Steve Jobs look. Oh. This one is old. It doesn't even have the holes for the little things. Sometimes even if you have ones where they're using the double-sided tape, you can still use these. But this must be an old one, a real 512. So let's use some tape. Exactly I-80386SX. Rare Steve Jobs look. We're gonna jank up some double-sided tape, or not double-sided tape, just some masking tape here, just to hold that on for the time being so I don't zap myself. This thing is going to need some rust treatment, so we'll take care of it eventually. But let's just test this to see if it works. Should we go nuts and connect the mouse? Let's do it. Let's go nuts and connect the mouse. Oh, let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. All right. All right, Rudy, have a good day. In 3, 2, 1. We got a chime. We got a screen. It's not the brightest screen I've ever worked with, but there's absolutely no burn-in. Just want to check something real quick. Want to double check the voltages coming out of this thing before we fry stuff. So yeah, that booted up fine. Hey, Steve is here. What's going on, Steve? So, what have we done so far? What have we done so far? What have we not done? We've done everything. So one of the things, it's going to be hard to see on the stream there, but one of the things we learned is that you can take the SCSI chip out of a Macintosh SE and put it into a Macintosh Plus. So that was fun. All right, let's check our voltages. So it's that. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3. I think this one is our +5. 4.9. Nice. And then we go 2 more, and that should be our -12. -12 is dead on. I've never seen a -12 that nice before. And then we skip 2 more. Oops. And I probably just shorted something out. And then there's our 12 volt. Wow. That's the nicest voltage I've ever gotten out of one of these. Okay, so this analog board is good from this Plus that I just got, which is actually a 512 or a 128. I'm not sure which. All right, so let's shut this down. Gonna turn the Moo gun back on. All right, so just for folks who came in late, we took the SCSI chip off of the Plus and we put in the one out of the SE, which is theoretically a little faster. It didn't change the performance at all, but it works, so that's kind of neat. I bought this Macintosh Plus this week, which used to be something else. I haven't run the serial number, but if anyone feels like doing it, the serial number is F5388DEM0001W. So yeah, this used to be a Plus or a 120 or a 128 or a 512. Okay, so let's get back to the internal SCSI mod, because theoretically, now that we know that you can swap in a different SCSI chip, it might be possible to do a faster thing. And again, these mods don't do them. It's kind of stupid because Joe's about to come out with a much better mechanism for doing internal SCSI on a Plus. They're both 5380s, but theoretically the SE should have faster SCSI than the Plus, according to its specifications. It has up to 5 megabytes per second of SCSI performance, whereas the SE or the SE has 5. The Plus tops out at 2. Does the microscope look good here? Alright, let's use the microscope for this job. So for my method for the internal Plus SCSI, you have to unsolder the SCSI chip. With Joe's method, you will not have to unsolder the SCSI chip. You might notice here too, so all these pins are sort of pushed outward. You can kind of see on this side they're pushed out. So I push the Moo gun down on one side till it melts, then push it the other way so that I can bend the leg back so that it's straighter, and then turn on the sucking from there. Oh yeah, and I was gonna just do this mod to the board that was in the Plus that I bought this week, but it was had a lot of liquid damage, so I'm gonna have to put it through the ultrasonic bath before I do anything to it. See if I can make this a little bit easier to see. It's not a really good way to show this, is there? Not through the microscope anyway. When I do this, I try not to scrape the back of the boards too much. It is, for fragile boards, it is easy to sort of damage old traces and old vias. So I try to be gentle. Stubborn pins or crusty solder. For this one, not so much. It's more that the pins are bent the wrong way, like they bend them out so that the chip doesn't fall out, I guess, when they're soldering it. That's more the annoying bit. This is coming out pretty good. Some of the, there are a couple that are connected to ground and 5-volt, so they will be harder to unsolder, but I don't really care about that because if I don't get every last little drip of solder out, I come back and take care of it later. So you can see most of the solder is out of those joints, and there's a couple that still have some stuff, but we're going to use the hot air now to move this the rest of the way. Let's zoom in a little bit. Man, my white balance is all out of whack there. There we go. I think it's coming back around. Okay, so this one's a little weird because I have all the wires dangling off of it, but I'm just gonna stick my bent tweezers in there. Now we're gonna come back with the hot air station at 350 degrees with no tip on it. Garth, I'd ask you where you're driving, but I want you to answer me while you're driving. And so when you're taking these out from chips that have had their pins bent over, it's always kind of I don't know, because when you desolder these things, you really don't want to apply a lot of force when you're trying to remove the chip, but also at the same time you have to apply a little bit of force because the chip is physically like attached to the board from the being bent over. And so if you give it 350 degrees, it's a low chance that you're going to destroy your board. So just keep heating it. Give it lots of heat. I felt it shift a little bit, but again, I'm not pulling out a ton of a lot of pressure on here. Just kind of inching it out slowly. Ah, oh, there it goes. It just moved a lot. Still have a connection down here. Oh. Okay, yep, and we're out. And the thing I forgot is that this wire is sort of holding us into everything. Alright, so we're going to need the soldering iron again. Ooh, free Mac Pro. 3,1 or 2,1. Ugh. I have a stack of those that don't work. I gotta figure out eventually how to fix those. This is a mess. Look at this mess. Come in with our big soldering iron, just take all this junk off of here. Okay. This might have been janky, but it was a very important proof of concept. It was research. It was research. Goodbye, old mess. You were a lot of fun. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm looking here for any of the pins that haven't had their vias completely cleaned out. So there's one there, one there, one there. So I'm going to have to come back in with the solder braid and take care of those. We'll add just a little bit of flux onto those pins. Okay, almost there. I just chased a bunch of solder down to the other side. Okay, so now all of our holes are clear. We're gonna come back in and put a socket in. Oh, the other thing we need to do is clean up our SCSI chip. You can see this thing's kind of a mess. Had a lot of solder on it, that chip. Straighten out those pins while I'm thinking about it before I forget. And now we'll come back and clean them up again. Sometimes after you squish them down, the solder kind of mushes out of the sides a little bit there. So we'll just reflow that. So they're nice and even. All right. 8-hour stream. Oh, geez, I hope not. How long have we been going? 50 minutes. All right. We got to pick up the pace. Let's put this thing in here. Okay. Let's see, the socket went in nice and easy. Didn't have to fight any of the holes. Okay, let's go back to the microscope. You can see the solder around the external SCSI port. One of the original ideas I had was to remove the external port and put in the pins that way, but I thought better of it, luckily. Gonna use our giant solder again. And real quick, I'm just gonna get 2 of the pins so that I can make sure my socket is pushed up all the way. That's good. And that's good. Okay. Let's do some rapid fire soldering. Oh yeah, someone asked earlier about the intro music. I didn't really have intro music. It was just me singing. There really wasn't intro music. I'm not fancy enough for intro music yet. But if you want a sticker of my channel logo, just send me an email. I have a bunch I need to send out. I apologize, Trina. And 1-bit. Jack 68K, last night I spent somehow 2 hours attempting to figure out why no Mac will successfully boot from this floppy emu. Ooh, gosh. Did you get that figured out, Jack? This board's gonna need a nice clean after this. I'm gonna have a bunch of boards to put in the ultrasonic cleaner this week. Garth just listened to my intro music. Yeah, My lights definitely flicker when I use my heat gun. I basically have one 15 amp circuit that feeds my entire workshop. It's not the way you want to run a workshop. Okay, so the solder, there's a lot of flux around there, but that's fine. We'll clean that up later in the week. Let's test this board and see if it's good. So we're going to take the original SCSI chip and just put it right back in the socket. Because that's a thing you can do. Okay. Let's take our Macintosh Plus test bench. Make sure that you plug your SCSI in the right way when you do this. All right, and we're booting. So we haven't destroyed our board by desoldering our SCSI chip. That's always a good first test to do. Okay. So now, need one of our fancy, or really not fancy at all, converter boards. So, let's see if I have one around. I thought I had one. So the way that I'm liking to install these now, that's different from how I used to do it, is that I originally, there we go. So I originally remounted the SCSI chip on top of this little converter board, which is okay, but this can kind of get in the way of the chassis and it can kind of force the board down a little bit. So now what I'm doing is putting it underneath of this chip so that there's a little bit more clearance for everything in it. I think it works this way. I've done one, I think, successfully. So now we need some pin headers. Hopefully I didn't use up all my pin headers this week. No, okay, we're good. I guess Steve's late. He's back further in the stream. So here, we're gonna stick that in there. All right, so now we have our chip, and we can solder the chip to the underside of this thing. I will say that designing this little board was a lot of fun. It's not something I've ever done before. This was not a very fancy or intricate project, but it was cool. Yeah, so basically, if you can see what we have here, we have two sets of holes, because theoretically I'd have, let's pop this off. So before I'd have header pins going down that would go into a socket on the board, and the chip soldered into the alternate row. But now what we can do is just take and solder our chip directly underneath here like this. And then we can put that whole thing in there like that. So what I'm gonna do first, this is kind of hard to do with one hand. I think what I need to do first is I'm gonna tack one of those rows of headers in there. I'm going to use my giant flux. What do you tune in for, Gut Bomb? Are you saying that this is jank? I know you like to tune in for the jank, but come on, this is pro level stuff right here. Okay. So the other thing is the short end of the pins went up, the long end is down here. Okay. So now we got to remember this goes like this. The chip needs to go that way. Who needs a clamp? Oh, I guess I could zoom in a little bit for y'all. Oh, this is so not janktastic. This is about as pro as I get. Come on, people, give me a little bit. Okay. So I just tacked on one of those leads. Let's do one more just to give it a little bit of stability. I haven't even broken out the vise yet. That's what Gut Bomb really tunes in for, is when I break out the vise. Okay, so you can see we have our chip soldered on a few pins right now. So all I'm doing right now is to just double check the distance to make sure that when we go to plug this in, that the distance is going to be good. Oh yeah, that's going to be perfect. All right, so by the time we plug down that chip, right now it's just kind of sitting in the top of the socket. It's going to go down perfectly over top of where that bar is. How do you get the chip out later for the next project? Well, so the nice thing is this isn't soldered in, so you can just take this thing right off. Oh, here's a janktastic tool trick for you. Look at that. Are we pros here or what? All right, so let's go on the microscope and let's solder these up real quick. And I think I'm going to switch to my small soldering iron for this one. Pro tip. It's sort of a vise. I think I'm going to use my crap solder. Use some flush cuts as a weight. Yeah, exactly. Use whatever things you have as weights to get your work done. Professionalism be damned. As long as it gets done. Gotta get a little bit of the solder off of the bottom of these legs. Make it a little bit easier to insert into the socket. Stuffed crust solder with flux inside. That sounds good. Alright, so that's all the pins on that side. Oh, my little trick is not great for this orientation. At least not with all the crap on the big bad bench. Come on, thing. Get in there. Oh, you can't even see how good this is. So I'm using my side cutters as a spacer for my wrench so that it can hold this properly. Look at that. That is professional. You don't get this kind of stuff with the high-end channels. There's a reason why you don't get this kind of stuff with the high-end channels. You shouldn't do it. That's why I appreciate y'all, because you love this kind of crap just as much as I do. Oh, this is great. Speaking of which, hit that like button. Leave a comment. Do a thing. Jack68K says, this is working better than I would have guessed. I don't know. We'll see when I go to plug it in. If you want to see some janktastic crap in person, I got a table for VCF East. So I need to come up with some crazy ass projects to do while I'm there. Because I plan on doing some soldering projects. If I'm going to be sitting at a table for 2 days or 3 days, whatever, you sure as shoot I'm going to be soldering something. And then maybe, I don't know if he'll be back this year, but DOS Dude 1 was there last year. So if you want to see real soldering, you go to his. And if you want to see jank soldering, you come and see me. All right. Oh, now we got to do all these joints. I forgot about all these. Yeah, we should have a little network up of and send rude messages to each other. I already told Steve that I'm gonna bring my bag of capacitors and chuck them at him. Oh yeah, this shows where this solder is way awful. Okay, we're gonna go back to the big honkin' solder for this job. Yeah. Come on, super glue? You really think I'm that bad? Going back to big solder for this one. Look at that. See how nice it is when you have flux in your solder? Look at how nicely that flows. Oh, it flows so nice. It like brings tears to my eyes. Ow, I just soldered my finger. Ow. Oh, shoot. Yeah, DIY. You reminded me that I really got to finish up that wood PC. Although I have multiple wood PCs that I've done over the years. One is a dual Xeon server. Actually, one of them I sold, so I don't have it anymore. But the 486 one is the project I really need to finish. That one's itching at the back of my brain. So it's gonna happen eventually. Analytics. I have bags of electrolytics that are over 20 years old at this point. I should probably get rid of them. Bought them back when Radio Shack used to exist. Yeah, I still have some caps that came from Radio Shack. Oof, I forgot about that. They probably have given up their juice. Alrighty. So, before we go further, let's check this and see if we've destroyed anything. So we've got our board. I see a little rogue piece of solder down in there, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. There you go. So you can see there's like very little gap in there now. That's what we want. All right, so let's see if this works. Let's see if it works. Let's see if we destroyed anything. Three, two. Oh, let's zoom out in case there's fire. 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. Oh. Need electric. Oh, I always do that to myself and stress myself out. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Beep. And we're booting. So we haven't destroyed anything yet. Let's shut this down. I don't know why I feel compelled to shut down System 6 the right way, but I do. It's my thing. One of my things. Okay, so now we got to get the vise out. That's everyone's favorite part. Okay. See, that came out real nice. All right, so let me get the vise. The vise time is the right time. Yes, Garth. Okay. Set you aside. So we need some pin headers. Generally, I like it if they match. It makes my brain itch less. Okay, so we want, so in the orientation of all this stuff, right, this comes here like this. Our cable is going to plug in underneath the board. So what we're going to do is take our pins and put them in the top of the board, but facing down. And then we're going to plug in our cable, and the orientation doesn't matter right now because we're just using the cable to help with the vicing. Okay, so our cable's plugged in. That's like that. And now I'm going to use the vise and just clamp these. It's going to sound kind of nasty a little bit, but it should go in sort of smoothly. Okay. Oh, there was apparently a screw hole for the neck, the clamps on the vise, the little pads. So some of my things didn't go down. So you can see that we're pretty close to the top. There's a little tiny bump popping out at each of them, but it's mostly there. And now we can take out our SCSI connector. And you can see all of our pins are a lot further up now than they used to be. So it gives us some nice plugging in. Does a 50 pin socket add too much height? Yeah. We basically have no room in there. And so any millimeters that you can gain helps out a lot. Hey, Chris Angelis. Yeah, it's the Scuzzy Vice. Alright. So I guess we can do this one in the microscope as well. Again, these are a little willy-nilly, so kind of like when I put in sockets, I'm just gonna do a couple of little leads first, and then get it lined up. And then come back and do the rest of them. How many of these mods have you done now, Chris? Because I think you're one of the few people that have showed that you've done it. I know Dave did one. Let's come down here. Okay, so I'm just making sure that that thing's all flush up against there. You're gonna try the new and improved method. Wait till you see Joe's method. It's like so easy. You're gonna be like, John, why did you make me do this? People are gonna be mad at me after we see Joe's method. But if we figure out a way to put a faster SCSI chip in this thing, then this might be the preferred method. So I don't know if you were here in the beginning, Chris, but we found out that you could take the SCSI chip out of the SE and put it in the Plus. Yeah, speaking of accelerator, one of the other projects that I want to do is see if we can. So I've already done, and I haven't done anything with this, but I showed it briefly on one of my streams that you can put a 6810 in these, which a 6810 by itself doesn't get you a whole lot, but they have faster speeds. So like the 6810 I have is a 12 megahertz CPU. So we'd be going up from an 8 megahertz CPU to a 12 megahertz CPU. And so one of the things I want to try eventually on one of these streams is to see if we can get the CPU to run at 12 megahertz. And I know just putting a faster crystal oscillator is not the way to do it, because too many of the system clocks are dependent on that 15.667 megahertz crystal oscillator, so you can't do that. So I have some ideas about how to give the CPU its own oscillator and see if that actually works. 12 whole megahertz, yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it's not like, oh, 12 from 8, but that's a 50% increase in megahertzes. Oh, I got solder on the end of the tip. Oh my gosh. Oh, we're crashing and burning here. I gotta clean my tip. That was my problem. I did not have a clean enough tip for this. There we go. Okay. We're okay. Everything's fine. Yeah, a 286 12 megahertz was a big deal. Okay, so now we got to do this thing and the other thing. And I think what we're going to do for both of these is just put in jumpers. So we're just going to take a lead from a nice size capacitor. Yeah, Bacchus, that's basically it. I'm not as fancy as Bali, but I have some janky ideas about it. So if we were using a real SCSI hard drive, I would not skip using a diode here. But since we're just putting in this little thing, this is fine for our purposes. Steve's down with the jank. This was my PCB design. I could decide whether I want to stick a diode in there or not. Yes, if you figure out a way to cram a real SCSI hard drive in your Plus, then don't do this. Put in a diode. Alrighty. So, very slow blow fuse, yes. Alright, so I think what we should do first, the first thing I want to do is find some electrical tape. One of the things I like to do on these is to just put a piece of tape on the bar, just in case something rubs up against there. Okay. It's not jank tape, it's good tape. Let's put a SCSI cable on there anyway. This one will work. Oh, I had a SCSI cable sitting right there. Oh well. We've already shown that this SCSI cable works, so let's stick with that one. Alright, so here, pin 1 is marked down here. Yeah, this would be a good spot for cap on tape. Alright, so one of the issues that we've run into here is that one of the, actually two of these caps are sort of in the way. So we're going to move those caps. Everything else looks clear. Which mouse came with the SE30? The wedge or the egg? Should be the wedge, I think. Alright, so this cap and this cap get in the way. I didn't have my soldering iron. It's going to take a second to warm up. NS, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. I once rested my hard drive on a piece of plywood put over the motherboard slots. Didn't realize it was trapping heat from the controller board until it let out magic smoke. Wow. That's wild. Huh. I guess it's enough of an insulator. That's a shame. Okay, so there's that one straightened. And now this one. That one. I'll put some fresh solder on those and help it flow a little bit easier. Okay, so all I've done is I've basically loosened those up and move them as high up off the board as I can. And I think when we do that, we can just push them out of the way enough that they get out of our way. Yeah, push this one this way, that one that way, and I think we're good with our clearance now. Is it done yet? Is anything ever done, Eric? Okay, I think we're there. So you can see that cap is now clear from our cable, and that cap is basically clear from our cable. And we're going to squish this in. We're squinched in. Okay. All right, here we go. So first we'll test this just like this, still using the external BlueSCSI just to show we haven't destroyed anything. Let's connect power this time. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Chime, that's always a good sign. And we're booting. Okay, so you can see we booted up there. So now what we're gonna do, shut that off, unplug our external BlueSCSI. I'm gonna take the same drive and put it in there. And we're now connected to our internal BlueSCSI. And 3, 2, 1. We got our light on our BlueSCSI, so that's always a good sign. And we're booting. Okay, so there you go. We're now booted in. Whew! All right, I was getting a little nervous there. I gotta be honest. I was getting a little nervous. All right, so let's shut this down. Yeah. And let's just double check that this thing fits in there as nicely as I think it should. There's only one letter difference between boot and boom. That is correct, Jack68K. Okay. Turn this thing on its side. I'll put that up in there first. Oh, no. I'm going to put that in there first. Okay. So we have the SCSI cable moving through here. Okay, so one thing we can see here is that even though we've gained more space, we're like right up against it. And there is one spot where when the chassis gets folded over like this, it's gonna touch the metal. So you're gonna have to use a little piece of Cap-On tape to sort of insulate the chip. But aside from that, this fits way better than my original method for installing this thing. So yeah, let's put a piece of electrical tape on there real quick, just so we can boot it up and show it works. Yeah, we'll use a little tape. Hopefully it works. We'll see. So there is a version of the chassis that doesn't have the lip around all of the openings, and that one's a lot easier to work with. So if you happen to have one of those, this job's way easier. I'm gonna put one there. So yeah, and cap-on tape would be better for this kind of thing. You could also, when you go to solder in the this stuff, you could also don't insert it all the way, like oh, you don't need a full one. 1 second, sorry, I'll cut this. So when you go to solder this in, if you just don't push the pins all the way in, if you just kind of like leave them, right? So if you push them in all the way, it's going to be like that, but you could also just have it not go all the way up, and that would work fine. What's the chassis on my new one? The new chassis is folded over. Yeah. My new older one. Yeah, you could also Dremel off some of that so it's not in the way. I've also, I had one where I kind of folded up the edges a little bit. So this is part of the reason why when Joe's comes out, people are gonna be happy. It's gonna be nice. I tells you. All right. So oops. Oh yeah, this was my other janktastic tip of the day. Remember, you can just get little nails, put them in there like that, and then you can use another one of these cables as an extension. No explosion. Pro tip: you don't get this kind of ingenuity everywhere. But yeah, it's a good, easy way to set up a little extension for one of these. There you go. We are booted in. It does look stabby. It feels stabby too. Well, that was a week. What a week. We did a lot of stuff this week. We found out you can take this SCSI chip and put it right into a Mac Plus. That was fun. We looked inside my new Mac Plus. That the logic board looks like this, so that's gonna need some work. I'll take care of this week. I gotta do some other stuff in the ultrasonic bath from all the flux. But yeah, we're gonna call it. Make sure to check out Dave's Vintage Apple Tech stream tomorrow. And I think Tech Ambrosia is streaming tonight at her normal time. I think it's like 6 Eastern. Thank you all so much for being here today. I appreciate the heck out of you and hanging out while I do silly shit like this. So yeah, have a lovely week, y'all, and we'll be back with something next week. I don't know if I can match this, but we'll be back with. Oh no, actually, I do have something. Hold on, just a second. Let me show you what we're doing next week. You might hear this coming. Oh, oh, this one's heavy. This one's heavy. Oh, let's change up our cam. Can anyone tell what this is from behind? We're gonna work with some plastic. We're gonna work with some plastic. So yeah, that's next week's mess. I just picked up some monitors and did a video. So Steve's got another video? Jeez, man. You've been cranking out videos this week. So yeah, we're not going to fix an LC575, but hopefully we're going to use this to fix my Mac TV, which has decided to stop working. So yeah. So make sure to tune in next week and we'll have some fun. And thank you again all for showing up today. I appreciate the heck out of you.